Okay, so we've traded in our kind of plain looking friend for a more attractive model here. And you can see that this version of the skull has been color coded so that you can see all the little bones very easily. So we're going to do the rest of the facial bones with this particular specimen. Okay, so we'll start with the maxilla. Okay, there are two maxillae, and the maxilla is the only other bone besides the mandible that has teeth associated with it. Okay, so it's easy to tell if you have a full set of teeth, like we have here, it has to be the mandible. If you have only half a set of teeth, okay, just imagine this bone off by itself. If you have only half a set of teeth there, it has to be a maxilla. Okay, now because this is a bone that has teeth associated with it, it will also have an alveolar margin, that location where the bone meets the teeth. And this bone also has an opening in it. Okay, and since it is near the orbit, it's named for its location with respect to the orbit. This is the infraorbital foramen. Okay, now we're going to flip our view here so that we can see the roof of the mouth. And there are a couple of names for the roof of the mouth in anatomy. One is to call it the hard palate, and you may also hear it referred to as the bony palate. Okay, now you can see that there are two colors here, and this is showing you very nicely on this specimen that there are actually two bones that make up the hard palate. Okay, now one of those bones is the maxilla, and the particular part of the maxilla that contributes to the formation of the hard palate is the palatine process. Okay, so you have the palatine process from one maxilla fusing with the palatine process of the other maxilla, and that makes up most of your hard palate. Okay, now the other color here is showing you that we have this second bone that makes up just this posterior quarter of the hard palate, and this section is part of the palatine bone, appropriately named. Okay, so again, this section is the palatine process of the maxilla on each side. This is from the palatine bone. Okay, now we can also see some other bones very nicely because of the color coding that we saw earlier. Here's the vomer that we looked at earlier that makes up part of our nasal septum. Here's the inferior nasal concha, which makes up part of the wall of our nasal passage. And then you can also see the ethmoid bone very nicely in there. This one's a little harder to distinguish its features, but you can see the bone in there very nicely. Okay, now these white bones that you see here that are making the bridge of the nose are the nasal bones. Okay, and there's one on each side, as you can see. Okay, the skull doesn't have any more of a nose because all the rest of this part of the nose is made of hyaline cartilage in a living person, and hyaline cartilage doesn't preserve the way that bone does, so you don't see it on a skull. Okay, now this little orange bone that you see here is the lacrimal bone. Lacrima in Latin means tears. So this is the little bone that is right next to the tear duct, and this passageway actually connects with our nasal passages. That's why when you cry, your nose starts to run, because all those extra tears, if they're not running down your face, they're going through this passageway into your nose, and so your nose starts running. Okay. Over here we have the zygomatic bone. You can see it connects to the zygomatic process of the temporal bone. and the zygomatic bone makes the cheek area of our face. Okay, so I think that finishes up our facial bones for now.